FP students, look around you. On a night where schools are closed because people are scared of the flu and people are sick everywhere, and I know we're missing people, this house is still full. This house is still full because the name of Jesus is being made great, because this is a family, because this is a place where you can be loved. And man, this is exciting. Can we take just a minute and realize how abnormal this is? Like, can you walk with me through that for just a second? How abnormal is it that we would have hundreds of students in this place making high the name of Jesus, finding love, finding family, finding people who love you maybe more in this place than you've been loved anywhere so far this week? This is not normal, and you get to be a part of something that is so uncommon and so not normal. And I'm so proud to be your pastor. You guys have no idea. But hey, enough with the mushy stuff. Let's get rolling. Also, the whole time I was doing that, I was trying not to laugh at you guys with the flu mask on over there. I see you, Leif. I see you with the flu mask. I see you laughing at me. Your shoulders are shrugging. Yeah, there we go. All right, so for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Pastor Jeff. I have the honor and privilege of being the student pastor here at the Pellissippi campus. We say campus because at Faith Promise Church, we actually have multiple campuses. We're something called a multi-site church. So if this is your first time at Faith Promise, you can know that right now at 6 other locations, students are worshiping just like you are right now across the greater Knoxville area and the surrounding counties. So you're a part of something that's even bigger than this, actually, as we're going after Jesus. But we are one big family. So if you look around and you say, hey, there's a lot of people here, that's a little scary. We get into a thing called small groups. If you haven't experienced that, that's some of my favorite part of what we do. But students, are we one big family? Aren't we just family here? I want to make it small for you. So, hey, we're starting tonight a series called Closer, talking about relationships both near and far, relationships that are close to you, relationships that are far away from you. We're going to look at relationships that have to do with dating. We're going to look at relationships that are just friendships. We're going to look at relationships with people you don't even like in this series, right? We all have relationships. We got to figure out how to navigate them. But before we jump into that, I want to take just a minute to talk about something, a little thing, just a tiny event that we do. I don't even think anybody knows anything about it, but it's called Fusion, all right? I want to talk about Fusion. For those of you that don't know anything about Fusion or have never been, you need to talk to one of the vagabonds around you who is screaming, because it is going to be one of the best weekends of your life. You do not want to miss it, and I promise I'm not just saying that. There are only a couple of things I can say that about, but I've told many students, I have never talked to a student in my few years here where I've said, hey, go to Fusion. They went to Fusion and came back to me and said, I wasn't really into it, didn't like it, right? It is going to be life-changing for you. You're going to get to know so many people. Some of your favorite stories and best friends in the world are going to come out of that time at Fusion. So whether you've been with us for your entire middle school, high school career, or this is your first time with us, I want to invite you to Fusion. Guys, it is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, February 23rd through 24th. It is $50. That includes your food and your free stuff. Your parents can't feed you on the weekend for $50, okay? We made it cheap because we want you to go, but I also want to tell you guys this. Whatever's holding you back, would you come talk to me or a small group leader tonight? If you haven't registered or if you can't register, whatever's holding you back, if you'll let us know. Because I want you guys to know, if money is holding you back, if you'll come talk to somebody tonight, we have generous people at this church who have given because we don't want money to hold you back. And we would love to make a way for you to go. Also, for some of you, I've actually been hearing this a lot and realized a lot of people don't know how we work this. I've heard of a lot of people who say, well, I got a basketball game that day, or I've got cheerleading that day, or I've got practice. Do not miss the whole event, students. For a couple of hours, we have something called timeout cards. Once you register, your parents will actually be able to say, hey, they got something to go to. We're going to let you go. We're going to let you come back. But don't miss the whole weekend, because we'd rather miss just a couple of hours without you than the whole weekend, because the weekend's not going to be the same without you. So if you haven't registered for Fusion, go to fbstudents.org, click on the Fusion banner, register there. If you don't know enough about it, you have more questions, talk to an adult, talk to one of the people around you who's been before. If you've been to Fusion before, raise your hand. Right? All right, I want you to talk to one of those people. They're going to tell you about Fusion. They love it. Guys, the deadline to sign up, the reason why we're harping on this so much, we have 1 week. Between now and next Wednesday night at midnight is the deadline to sign up. Please, please, please don't miss it. I don't want you looking at Instagram. I don't want you looking at Snapchat, seeing what everybody else is doing and going, man, I wish I had went. I want you to be there. I want you to experience it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the first week of Closer. And here's what we're going to kind of talk about with this relationship series. You guys are probably expecting one thing. What's the holiday coming up next week? Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, right? So you can't escape relationships this time of year, right? You can't escape them. If you're dating someone, you cannot escape the hints at what you should buy them, right? You can't escape that. Guys, men in the room, if you are dating a girl and you say, she's not dropping me any hints, or she said we don't have to get each other gifts, she is a liar. That is a lie from the pit of hell. If you don't get her a gift or you don't catch those hints, you're donezoed, okay? Relationship's over. All right? Relationship is over. So I want you to get that. I want you to grab that. Guys, listen up. If you don't know, grab a girl around you and go, hey, I need help. I don't want my relationship to end. Could you help me listen to the signs? Could you help me pick out a gift? Find some help. Do that. You can't escape relationships. You can't escape romance this time of the year, even if you're not dating someone. Some of you guys, you're like, I'm not dating anybody. I'm free as a bird. What that really means is you have not found a Valentine's Day date yet, right? But you want one. Right? And even if you're trying to go, I don't want one. I'm cool just the way I am. I don't need anybody else. I need me. Right? And the rest of the world is going, you need somebody to give candy hearts to, right? You can't escape it. Romance and relationships. But here's the deal for tonight. Tonight, we're not talking about that. Next week and closer, we're doing something we've never done at FP students before. You are going to want to be here. You are going to want to invite some friends. We are going to do something called the dating games at FPS. We've never done it before. It is going to be absolutely hilarious. We are going to have some crazy good food. I'm talking heart-shaped donuts, chocolate fountains that I am already in trouble for, people. I didn't make it off the stage last week, and I was in trouble for the chocolate fountains. So enjoy before I get fired, okay? Right? Well, we're going to have chocolate fountains. We're going to have the whole night is going to be an incredible game show. As we dive into dating, we learn a lot about dating. For some of you, we're going to hook you up, right? For some of you, we're going to help you not get dumped by the end of the night. If you mess up Valentine's Day, we're going to help you, right? For those of you that are single but don't want to be single for the rest of your life, we're going to help you out with that. We're going to give you some tips. We're going to give you some take-homes. But here's the coolest part about the dating games next week. We're going to have a panel on stage answering your questions about relationships, and it's going to include adults and students, single and people who are in a relationship. We want to give you all sides of this and help you to succeed in your relationships, but I promise you're not going to laugh harder anywhere else next week. Don't miss that. If you are dating someone and you are having this tough conundrum, you're going, I want to come to church next week, that sounds awesome, but my girlfriend or my boyfriend, they expect me to take them out for Valentine's Day. Okay, first of all, it's a Wednesday. You can go on Friday or Saturday. If you don't come next week, because you're hanging out, with your girlfriend and your boyfriend, just telling you corporately, we're praying your relationship ends by the end of the night. Our God is greater. You're done, right? Just kidding, kind of, maybe. Be here next week. It's going to be fun. So let's jump into tonight. Tonight, here's how we're going to jump off of closer. We're going to jump in this way. How do I deal with the people I really don't even want to talk to, but I have to, right? Anybody have a picture of someone just pop into your mind? Don't say a name. Don't say a name, right? Yeah. Somebody you have to talk to, you don't want to, you don't even like the people, okay? We all have those relationships. Some of you are so excited you won't put your hands down. We all have those relationships. Tonight we're going to talk about how to deal with those. And in this series, we're going to discover the best way to navigate relationships, the best way that we can walk through relationships of all kinds. So we're going to help you walk through and navigate the landmines of relationships, starting with the people that you really don't even know how to talk to, you don't know if you like, okay? Now, in 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3, we're going to start there for this whole series because the Apostle Paul writes this book, this letter to the Corinthian church. He writes this book called Corinthians. It's a whole letter to them. And in the 13th chapter, he writes something called the love chapter. Anybody familiar with 1 Corinthians 13? If you've been in church for a little while, you may have heard that. If you haven't been in church, you may be familiar with this. Has anybody ever heard someone read something that sounds like the Bible at a wedding that says love is patient, love is kind, that sort of thing? All right, even more of you, okay? Right, that's where this comes from because Paul, the Apostle Paul, is giving us what he says God wants to teach us about love. And at the very beginning of this, 13, verse 1, he says this, if I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but I do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, I can see what's going to happen. I can call out truth in you, right, that I don't even know. And I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge. And I have faith that can move mountains. If I have all those things, but I don't have love, I am what? Nothing. Without love, I am nothing. Zilch, got nothing. If I give all of my possessions to the poor, my car, my house, my dog, my, not your girlfriend, right? But whatever, if I give all my possessions to the poor and give myself to hardship, that I felt like we skipped something, but I have nothing, right? I gain nothing without love. That's the point. I missed some words there because I can't read good, which is okay. God can use you if you can't read good. But if I have everything in the world, here's the point. If I have everything in the world, but I don't have love, I have nothing. Think about the people in your life that you have to have a relationship with that are the hardest to love. If you're not thinking of anyone, you're the hardest person for most people to love, right? That's the deal. There are hard people to love. If you don't love them, here's what Paul is saying. It's easy, guys. It is easy to talk about loving that person who is cute that you want to date. It's easy to talk about loving your best friend who you would die for. It's easy to talk about loving your family sometimes. It is not easy to talk about loving the people you don't even like. But Paul says, without equivocation, I can have everything else in the world, but if I don't have love, I think for all people, right? Jesus said it was for all people. If I don't have love, then I have nothing. So I'm going to give you this. This truth is good, not just for the people you don't like. This truth is good for every relationship you will ever be in, from friendship to family, dating to marriage, okay? I'm going to give you this. If you don't get anything else from tonight, I want you to catch this because this will help you if you catch on this truth. Here we go. If my motivation for a relationship, if my motivation is anything other than love, it won't last. If my motivation isn't love, it won't last. Any relationship, period. If I have a friendship and my motivation for my friend, for that relationship is not love, I'll lose that friend. If I'm walking with my family and my motivation is not love, that relationship won't last. I will break it. If I'm dating someone and my motivation isn't love, my motivation is what they can give me, what they can do for me, it won't last. So if you've been through a broken relationship before and you don't want that to happen again because it hurts so bad, that broken friendship that you wish you could heal, or that relationship strained with your mom and dad, I want you to go and I want you to look at this. I want you to ask yourself this question. In those relationships where I've experienced brokenness, was my motivation love? Because if our motivation isn't love, it won't last. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight, is that motivation of love. We're going to talk about how to love people that we seem to have nothing in common with and we want nothing to do with. How do we love people we have nothing in common with and we want nothing to do with? Would you guys say that it's true that we make assumptions about people simply by how they look? How many of you guys have met someone, you know nothing about them, you've talked to them for 10 seconds and decided, I don't like them? Let's be real. Let's be real. Yeah, okay? I met some of you and thought the same thing, but then I found out you're kind of cool, right? Right? Some of you are getting really nervous. You're like, was that me? No, it wasn't you, probably, right? We meet people and we make these assumptions about them. We go, I can never be their friend. They're way different than me. Or man, I can never hang out with them. Or I bet they're not funny. This, that, or the other. How many of you guys have made an assumption about someone, decided I don't like them, only later to realize they're one of the coolest people on the planet? Yeah, if you're not raising your hand, it's because you missed a really cool relationship, okay? That happens all the time. So I've made some assumptions in my life. Making assumptions about people is one of the easiest things we do, students. Making assumptions about people, especially incorrectly, is one of the easiest things that we do. But here's what I found out. Most of my assumptions about people are wrong. They're wrong, and I'll give up on somebody. I'll write somebody off before I've ever got to know them. I had this guy. We weren't really close friends, but we were acquaintances. We played ball together and stuff like that in high school, and his name was Roddy. And when I first met Roddy, I thought Roddy has got to be an incredible basketball player. We're playing basketball today in gym. I got to pick Roddy, and here's the reason why I got to pick Roddy. Because in 9th grade, Roddy was 6'8". Legit 6'8". So I'm picking Roddy for my basketball team. I made an assumption. That if you're 6'8" at any level of life, any season of life, I don't care if you're a 3-year-old that's 6'8", you can dunk. And I made the assumption that you can dribble and that you can shoot. Turns out Roddy could do none of those. Put Roddy on my team. Roddy's vertical jump was 3 inches. Like his feet acted like they had weights on them. Dude would try to jump, nothing happened. He would try to dribble, he's doing this situation, right? The best thing you could do was just put him down in the post, tell him to stand like this, don't move, and act like he's going to catch it, right? We wouldn't throw it to him. Roddy couldn't play. Now, I met this other kid in student ministry about 7 years ago. Let's call him Trey. Trey's not his name, but I'm going to protect his name. In case he's watching this, sometimes they do. So I meet Trey, and Trey is like this big, okay? Trey's like this big. He's in 8th grade. He didn't really grow after the 8th grade. He kind of stayed like that. But Trey is like this little white kid, freckles everywhere, shaggy hair. He smiles at you, really cool smile, but super buck teeth, right? Trey is as redneck can be in Lower Alabama. And I meet Trey, and Trey's coming in with like an undershirt that's all stained up, right? And some shorts that I don't even know if they are shorts. They could have at one point been jeans that got cut. I'm not sure. It was bad. But Trey comes in, and he's wanting to play ball with us, and we're all looking and like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this guy can ball, right? Turns out he was the second coming of Steve Nash. He was awesome. He could pass. He could dribble. He could almost dunk. He's like this big. He made me look bad so many times, but I made assumptions that Roddy could play when he couldn't and that Trey couldn't play when he could. Have you ever made wrong assumptions about people? We make wrong assumptions about people. Let me tell you about an assumption people made about me. I'm still bitter about it. I need a 6th grade boy, somewhere in the room, a 6th grade boy. Help me out. Come on. Can you come up here? You want to go around? There you go. I thought that might be safer. You guys adults in the room, you heard that. I picked the safe way. Right? It's Aiden, right? Yes. Awesome. I got that right. That was incredible. Pretty proud of myself. So Aiden is your pretty normal, typical 6th grade boy. Yes. When I was in the 6th grade, I was this height that I am now. I was 165 pounds. I was faster, stronger, and better at everything than everybody else I was standing beside. They looked like Aiden. I had facial hair, people. I was on a roll. Aiden, did you know that the doctors told me this? They said, looking at your family history, looking at who you are, you're going to be like 6'5", 6'6", right? I'm playing football. Awesome. Playing basketball. I don't even have to dribble it. Awesome. More athletic than everybody, right? I could do anything that I wanted. I could go out. I could play sports. I was good at sports. I felt good. Problem, 3 years later, all the Aidens did this, and I did this. I stopped growing this way and grew this way. And by the time we got to freshman year, I was no longer the best athlete, Aiden. People made assumptions. I was a fat kid who couldn't run. It was a problem. Aiden, everybody give Aiden a hand for being a good sport. You can go ahead and jump down there. The doctors made an assumption. My parents made an assumption. I made an assumption that I was going to grow. And here I am today, still bitterly short and angry about it. We make assumptions. We make assumptions about people. Sometimes we make assumptions about people this way. We make assumptions and we say, you know what? They're good. They're okay. And we don't know they're going through pure hell. Sometimes we make assumptions. People won't come to church. They'll never experience God the way I've experienced Him. And we never know that that's exactly what they were looking for. We actually have a student who's here tonight. She's here every week. Her name is Julie. She serves on the weekend. I would love to share with you her story. So we got a quick video with Julie. Take a look. Hear her story.
Ever since I was a kid, I didn't believe in God. I was raised an atheist, but I lived in a Christian family. I didn't have any relationship with God. I felt like there was no higher power. So as I got older, my insecurities got worse. And this led to people finding out my weaknesses. And they started to bully me throughout middle school. When I got to high school, I moved to Tennessee, and I thought this would be a new start. But the bullying didn't end, and things just got worse. I ended up wanting to get more friends, find more people, so I ended up getting involved with the wrong group of people. And they started to spread rumors about me. They bullied me, and then they sexually harassed me. In May, I was invited to Faith Promise. It was the first church I had ever been invited to, and I was really scared at first to go. But I felt like this would be a good chance to meet some friends, some good friends. So I went, and I was introduced to a great group of people, and they really made me feel like I was special and that I had a purpose. But later on that month, one day at school, I was sexually harassed, and I decided that I would kill myself that night. but it was a Wednesday night, and I decided I might as well go to church one last time. So I went to church, and it was a night of worship. I walked into the worship room, and I just felt alone at that point. So during worship, Jeff said to get on your knees and just worship. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. But I got on my knees anyway, and I just kind of sat there. And all of a sudden, this gust of wind came upon me. And then I heard this voice say, "You're going to be okay. I've got you." And I just couldn't move. I was stuck in my tracks, and I just started to cry. And it was the first time in my life I had ever felt like there was actually somebody there, and somebody who cared. So I started to read the Bible. I got my own Bible, started reading it. I went to movement. I met so many great friends here. I got involved in FP students, and now I work with the 2-year-olds here. So being at Faith Promise has really changed my life, and it really gave me a home when I didn't have one. My name is Julie Sprayberry, and this is my story.
Every time I hear Julie tell her story, every time I watch that video, I struggle not to cry because that's real. If we're a church that exists to help real people with real problems find the real love of Jesus, that is as real as it gets, folks. It's as real as it gets. And I think about the assumptions we make. How many people around Julie, even the day that she decided I'm going to take my own life, made assumptions she's fine. She can handle what we're saying. She was so hungry for relationships that she began to spend time with people she didn't like and that really doesn't sound like they liked her. But she was hungry for relationships, and she found at Faith Promise something she couldn't put her finger on. And was it enough? Was other people enough? Was her small group enough? No, but it was something special that even on the night where she said, you know what, I don't believe any of this. I'm about to take my own life. I'm still going to come because this is the closest place I feel to being loved. And then she wasn't looking for Jesus, but Jesus found her right here. And as she describes her story, I love it because it's so not the way a pastor would describe the story. She didn't know all the right words. She didn't know all the right things. All she knew was Jesus came and found her, and she had to go find out more about him. And I've watched Julie. I've watched you be baptized. I've watched you step up. I've watched you serve. Your life is totally different. And there is not a person in this room who loves better than Julie, by the way. Every weekend, I see her every week. She loves people so well because she knows what it's like to be loved to the foot of the cross. She knows what it's like to experience the love of Jesus and the love of a family. But people make assumptions. Every day we make assumptions that people are okay when they're not. We make assumptions about people because the race or ethnicity that they are. We make assumptions about people based on the way that they dress. We make assumptions about people based on the things that they do. And so many times we miss out on life-giving relationships and opportunities to help transform someone's life in the name of Jesus because we make assumptions. We make assumptions that that friend would never go to church with me. They're not into the church thing. We make assumptions that they would never trust Jesus. We make assumptions that they're never going to stop doing drugs. We make assumptions that they're never going to treat people differently. We make assumptions and we miss what God has for us. And we don't just do this with other people. We do this with God, don't we? We do it with God. We make assumptions about God. And some of you made assumptions about God based on what you've heard, what you've seen in movies, what your parents have told you, what other people have told you. Maybe you went to a church and you didn't experience any of the love that the Bible talks about. You didn't experience any of the grace with the truth. And you kind of given up on God because you've taken other people's word for it instead of going straight to the Word of God to see who Jesus really is and how much He loves you. We make assumptions about God. And I love this quote by Jonathan Swift, the author who wrote the classic Gulliver's Travels. He said this: "We have just enough religion to make us hate, but not enough religion to make us love one another." We have just enough religion to make us hate, but not enough religion to make us love one another because we don't understand. When we have just religion, we don't understand anything but rules. But when we know Jesus, all we can understand is love. It is the only thing that we can understand. Even when we're being hard on somebody, even for some of you, when I come have a conversation with you that feels hard, it's out of love. And it's because I love you so much that I want you to step into your full potential. That kind of love is how we have to love other people around us. It'll absolutely change everything. But here's the crazy part. We can't love people from a distance, can we? We can't love people from a distance, but we want to. I don't really like hanging out with you. I don't really think I'm going to like that person. I'm going to keep my distance. Yeah, I'll love them if they need something, if they come to me with a problem. Of course, if they come to me and tell me, hey, I'm thinking about committing suicide. But guess what, students? They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you that if they can't trust you. They're not going to tell you that from a distance. We can't love people with the love of Jesus from a distance. We can't really love real people from a distance. 1 Corinthians 13:7, Paul continues, he's talking about love, and he says this about love: it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love always does these things. But students, can we do these things from a distance? Can you protect someone from a distance? Can you? No. Can you trust someone really from a distance? You go, yeah, I trust you, but I'm never going to spend time with you. That's not going to happen. What about this? Can you preserve and fight for a relationship when it gets rocky from a distance? No. This love, what love always does, requires us to be in proximity. We can't do these things from far away. But Paul didn't always love like this. If you go and you read, you read in Acts, like chapter 3, I believe, Acts chapter 9, 1 through 31. I want you to write that down, go read it. I'm not going to read it to you guys today because it's like 31 verses and we don't have the time to dive into it. But Acts 9, 1 through 31, it tells the story of Paul coming to know Jesus. Paul hated Christians so much in the Christian religion that he was killing Christians. He was putting them in prison. He'd received authority from the governors in the different areas that he was living in, and he would go and he would round people up. He would kill them. He'd put them in prison. He was trying to stop Christianity. He had an encounter with Jesus that didn't make sense, kind of like Julie's, where Jesus came to him and said, why are you persecuting me? I've got a plan for you. Jesus called him into something new, and Paul completely changed. And Paul went in and began preaching in the same communities, preaching Jesus in the same communities where he had just rounded people up and tried to throw them into prison. And everybody got scared, and everybody got confused because they said, isn't this the same guy who was just putting us in prison? Isn't this the same guy who was trying to stop Christianity in its tracks? And now he's acting like a crazy person, like a fool, preaching Jesus. And they realized that something had happened. He had had an encounter with Jesus because he went from hating people with as much hate as you could have to loving people, no matter what they believed, with as much love as you could have. He had to tell everybody about what he had experienced. Paul changed. Here's the deal, though. When Paul was at a distance from Jesus, he had a completely wrong view of who Jesus was. But when Paul had one close encounter with Jesus, when he got close one time, it changed everything. And he began to love everybody that he was around. When we get close, it changes what we're doing. When we get close to God's people, we fight for them instead of against them. When we get close to God, we lean into Him. Because here's the deal. Here's kind of the bottom line of tonight that we want you guys to get. When it comes to relationships, especially those that are strained, especially those that aren't easy, distance equals distortion, but proximity equals passion. Distance equals distortion, but proximity equals passion. The farther you are away from somebody, the less you will understand who they are. The farther you're away from them, the more you say, I just don't know if I can touch them. I don't know if I can hang out with them. I don't know if I can spend time with them. What if people see me with them? You'll never know their story. You'll never love them because your view of them will be distorted. Many of you have had people make wrong assumptions about you, and it's hurt you. And the reason why is because they made those assumptions from a distance. Distance equals distortion. But what happens when we get to know somebody? When we lean in close, when we get in proximity? Many of you have experienced it. We go from spending time with someone that we said, I could never really like them. I could never be close to them. We're too different. And you realize I become passionate about that person. It's a passionate friendship. It's a passionate relationship. It's something where we share a lot in common because I realize as I get close to them, they're just a real person with real problems like me. And we share a lot more in common. Can I tell you guys this? Some of my best friends in life, people who are close to me now and people who distance, geographical distance put us farther apart, the people that I am close to, the closest to, are people who I would have never spent time with if I hadn't have got close to them to begin with. Distance distorted it. I never thought I would spend time with them. I never thought, hey, let me look at that person. When I'm thinking about my best friends, I can't think of one that I looked at and I just said, you'd be awesome. I pick you. Like a Pokemon. Charizard, I choose you. Woo, right? You don't do that. You get close to somebody. Like, I remember one of my best friends in this world, one of the first times I met him, he was like, I know Muay Thai, and did some sort of weird, ninja move. And I was like, you're weird. I don't really like you. Best friend in the world now. But I had to get close to him to learn who he was, and that he didn't really know Muay Thai, and he was a total liar. That's different. Distance equals distortion. Passion equals proximity. Think about this as when we look at God at a distance, how do we look at Him? So many times when we look at God at a distance, we see him as the big guy in the sky, the man with a plan, far enough away that he doesn't really care about us. Why, we ask questions like, well, if God really loves me, why would bad things still happen in this world? We just see him as far off, and we ask those questions, and we don't understand because we're distant. When we're distant from people, we see race and ethnicity and social status and talent and ability. We see differences instead of similarities. We see a competitor instead of a teammate. We see people who are objects instead of sons and daughters of God. And ladies, can I just talk to you for just a second? Not that this would only happen to you, but women of God, can I talk to you for just a second? If a guy asks you to send him a picture of you on his phone, right, and you know what I'm talking about, he sees you as an object that can do something for him and not as a human. Run from that man. Run from him. Guys, if that is you, can I just tell you, I'm praying that all these girls run from you, but I'm also praying that God does something in you because you're better than that. People aren't objects. They're people. They're sons and daughters of God. And when we get close, we see that. When we get close, we see it, and it changes everything. We get close to God, we recognize he's for us and not against us. We recognize he cares about who we are before he cares about what we do. So how do we move? How do we remove the distance that we create for people? How do we relate to people before we reach them? Because if you can't relate to people, you can't reach them. How do we relate to people before we reach them? I'm going to give you 4 things. I want you to write these down if you can. I'm already kind of going over time tonight. Write these down if you can. I want you to use these. These are big. These will help all of your relationships. But let's start with people who are a little far from us. Number 1, make the first move. Make the first move. If you wait on somebody else to make the first move, no one will ever move. If you make the first move, you can get close and you can find some of the richest relationships you'll ever have. If you make the first move, somebody made the first move and invited Julie to church. Julie would have never invited herself to this church. She didn't even know we existed. Somebody made the first move. Also, if you want to date someone, it works well. Make the first move. Otherwise, you'll both be 80 wondering about what could have been, okay? Nobody makes the first move. You got to make the first move. Number 2, ask and don't assume. Don't assume you know the person. Ask about their story. Don't assume you know them. Ask about their story, and you'll find out so much more about them. You'll find out that your assumptions so many times are wrong. Again, this does apply to dating relationships. Guys, if you're dating a girl, if you're dating a guy, ask about their story instead of assuming what you know, and you'll get closer immediately because no one ever asks, they assume. Ask, don't assume. Number 3, point out the positive. Point out the positive. How many people don't understand the positives about themselves and the potential they have because no one ever calls it out? It's crazy. We think that people actually know. We see something and we'll go, oh man, you're so talented. Of course they know they're talented. No, they don't. Because they're so talented that nobody ever tells them. We go, oh, they love people so well. They got to know how much people love them, right? No, because nobody ever tells them. They assume they know. Recently, we were at a staff retreat, the week that we had the snow day. We're at the staff retreat, and Pastor Zach asked this question to the staff. He said, what's your greatest fear? And in that moment, I almost started crying as I shared what I shared. It was very simple, but it was hard for me. I said, my greatest fear is that I will fail in every arena of life, and I don't want to let people down. And everybody in the room who heard that thought that was ridiculous. They were surprised. And Pastor Zach actually said, who would have thought that about Jeff? He's so organized and he's so smart and he does things so well. We would never think that he thought he was going to fail. But then Zach said something that even I had never thought of. He said, but how many of us have ever told Jeff what we see in him? Or do we think he just gets it? Guys, you need people to pull out the potential in you and point out the positive. You need to do it for somebody else. Don't assume they know. Point out the positive. And the last thing, praise publicly. Praise them publicly. When you find out that somebody is way cooler than you thought they were, when you find out that somebody is just absolutely incredible, and man, you're glad you got to know them, praise them publicly and let other people know it. Don't keep it on the down low. Don't keep it like, oh, I don't want people to know I'm friends with them. No, let other people know they're incredible. And if you're missing out, you're missing out. They're absolutely incredible. Same thing if you're dating. How about this, guys? Actually praise your girlfriend publicly. Girls, how about you praise your boyfriend publicly? You let people know that they're actually good and that you like them, right? Let people know they want to hear it. I'm praying that you guys will step out this week I'm praying you'll step out this week. God is putting people in your path that you can invite to Fusion. This is not about the event. This is about the stories like Julie's that every year happen at Fusion. God's putting somebody in your path. Would you make the first move? Spend some time with them. Would you ask about their story, not assume? Would you point out the positive, praise publicly, and invite them to a weekend where I believe God is going to love them in a way they've never been loved, where people here are going to love them in a way they've never been loved, and they can step in to a life-changing relationship with God. Students, would you? We have 1 week. 1 week. There's no event that makes as much of a life change and an impact eternally as this event because we let God speak into us and we let our family love us. Would you invite somebody to be a part of that event? And before we step out today, I would be remiss if I didn't do this. I want to give you just a quick opportunity. If you would say, hey, Jeff, I'm really struggling with this whole love thing. Maybe the reason you're struggling with the love thing is because you've never stepped into proximity with God. You've never stepped into proximity with Jesus. You don't have that relationship. Can I tell you that Jesus Christ, the sinless Son of God, came, lived a sinless life for 33 years, died your death on a cross to take your penalty for the mistakes that you made and that I made because he loved you that much, nothing could keep him from you. And he has called you to a greater purpose. He's called you to an eternity in heaven. He's called you to living heaven on earth right now. So if you've never started a relationship with Jesus, but tonight you say, hey, Jesus, I want to start a relationship with you. I want you to be my king. I want you to be my Lord. I want to learn how to love the way that you love. Then I want you to pray this prayer with me. Everybody bow your head, close your eyes. We're going to pray together because at Faith Promise, nobody prays alone. Nobody does anything alone. If that's you, pray this with me. Dear Jesus, I know I've sinned. I know I make mistakes. And I'm not worthy to be forgiven, to be loved, but I'm grateful that you love me. Thank you, Jesus, for dying for me at my worst and believing for my best. Jesus, I want to make you Lord. I want to make you my King, and I want to live my life for you. Forgive my sins. Make me a new creation and teach me to live for you. Thank you for saving me. In Jesus' name we pray. Everybody said,